Hi, Katie.
Hi. So
Hi, Sandy.
glad. Awesome. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Happy Wednesday, everyone. I'll just let people come in. Hello to everyone who's watching at home in the future, because we record all these lunch and learns and put them on our YouTube channel. A couple of Zoom rules for those of you who are um, new or returning, haven't been here in a while. Please mute yourself when you're not speaking. We recommend speaker view for presentation. Video sharing is optional, though we love to see all your smiling faces. And please type all questions and comments into the chat. We're really excited to give you a little update from Autism Tree now that we're in May, post Autism Acceptance Month, which was our best Autism Acceptance Month ever. We now have 262 brand new families who have come into the fold of Autism Tree, who have filled out our intake form and have gone through the official intake process since January 1st. Which is a lot of new families. So if there's any new families out there watching, welcome to our community. We're so excited. If you don't know about us, we offer 19 programs. 13 are in person. We have 3 that are hybrid and 3 that are virtual for those outside of San Diego County. So anybody can join our events. We have 11 upcoming events coming up in May. We post constantly on Facebook and Instagram. You can check our social media for the most up-to-date, and you can also go to our website and our event calendar under our programs tab to look at what's coming up that week. Events this week, we have a virtual coding workshop this Saturday. It's in the morning at 11 a.m. This is super fun coding workshop on Zoom, led by one of our high school interns. She's amazing, and program director, Conchi, and she's wonderful. And then our Autism Tree Project Sunshine teleplay workshop is happening as well later that afternoon, also on Zoom, which is super fun. I forgot what the theme is. I think they have a Marvel theme of a game that they're going to play. They play online games, and it's really awesome. It's for kids of all ages, even teens can join. It's super fun. NCL Adaptive Art Workshop is happening as well. Our adaptive dance class happens every week. This week we have ages 5 through 10. Next week we'll have ages 11 through 18. We do have a few spots open for our 5 through 10 class. So if there's any new families who want to join our adaptive dance class, it's still early in the spring season, so you can reach out to us and join today. It's an 8-week commitment. And at the end of the 8 weeks, we have a recital. Tap Fever Studios, our community partner who runs this program for us, does this recital where the kids can dance and show off their dancing skills. We also have a musical playgroup for our younger kiddos at the Music Therapy Center of California. That will be happening 1 p.m. We have our food farming nutrition workshop also on Saturday, which is from 1 to 3 p.m. At Wild Willow Farm, which is in South Bay. Which is really funny. We'll do a farming tour, and then they get to do farming activities and scavenger hunts around the farm. It's super fun. Our Fit and Fun workshop is happening on Sunday morning, which is our last event that weekend. So special shout out to our volunteer and program director, Glenn Lasker, who runs those for us once a month. So we have all of our events are free. All you have to do is RSVP online on our website to learn to sign up for our events, and we'll follow up with all details for the event. And then we have 517 impact videos on our YouTube channel, and we have 116 of these lunch and learns already uploaded to YouTube. You can go back and watch any of those at any time. We love every single guest speaker that we've ever had come on. And today, I know we were excited to welcome a new community partner, TRS, who a lot of you may have heard of. However, their guest speaker had called in sick today, so we hoped that she's doing better. But for today, instead, we're inviting our amazing volunteer who's on the East Coast, Jeff Snyder. I'm so excited to pass it off to Dana to do his introduction because Jeff means a lot to us and our family. So thank you, Jeff, for stepping in today, and I'll pass it off to Dana.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's so great to be here with everyone in our 20th anniversary year. I just, want everyone to know how grateful I am just that we're in our second generation of kids and we're having more new families than we've ever had before in all of past years. So if you're a new family, extra love to you. I hope I get to meet you. And I think it's no accident that Jeff is our 117th Lunch and Learn speaker today. I actually was on the phone with Jeff yesterday, catching up on the neuroscience conference and him being a moderator this year on our Living Autistically panel. And it's just a real blessing, Jeff, to have this opportunity for everyone to really get to know you better, including me and Rebecca, being able to interview you and really share your journey. The journey that you've had with Autism Tree, I honestly feel like could be made into a documentary. Many of you know that Jeff has literally been on almost every Lunch and Learn with us and like building this whole platform and connecting us to people all over the country. Like Rebecca said, Jeff is coming to us from Massachusetts. When you look at these photos, it really shows the journey that we've been on together. We met Jeff in 2019. If you go to the far left, Jeff is next to Joel Anderson and Katrina. They were all at that conference, and Jeff was on the Living Autistically panel that year. And then if you go to the middle photo, Jeff was a guest speaker. Really, that's kind of interesting that it was May 13th of 2020. So it's just been almost 2 years, Jeff, a little over 2 years by a couple days. I love that photo. It's hard to believe that was 2 years ago now. Actually, that's not even right. It's 3.
3 years.
Whoa. That just seems crazy. Well, we were way overdue to have you do a Lunch and Learn, Jeff. And the Global Neuroscience Planning Committee is the photo on the right. And that's crazy to think about too, because we're literally just getting really into our second year doing a hybrid. Last year was our first year, and Jeff has again been really instrumental all these years since he came on board with our neuroscience conference. These are some really fun photos. If you go to the far left, Rebecca and Jeff there at the end of a summer activity day in September 10th, 2021. And next to that is another activity they did with one of our teen chapters, TBIA SD3. And that was also at that same time period. And then you go further over, and that's a different trip, I think, October 30th for TBI San Diego's Halloween family picnic for our families. And then next to that was Jeff doing a book signing last year at our hybrid global neuroscience conference. And I'm just really excited for everyone to know that Jeff has just become a huge advocate and far beyond our Autism Tree community. I feel like I was telling Jeff on so many of these 117 Lunch and Learns, Jeff has been instrumental in bringing out things from the Lunch and Learns because he's has autism and is an advocate for the autism community. I feel like he always brings forward maybe our core mission, our why. And so today I think it's going to be a blessing for all of us to really be focused on the why of Autism Tree. And that is to have every person, like Jeff came to Autism Tree, to be able to have as many opportunities as possible to keep opening doors and trying new things and reaching for bigger dreams. And Jeff is definitely has been doing that and continues to do that. So you're really the model of our core pillars, Jeff. We embraced your family. I love your parents and your whole family. It's so fun when your dad's your wingman. And then connected your family to the resources that we had, listening to things that interest you, as well as you reciprocate. You do the pay it forward model naturally, Jeff, and connect us as well. And that's what Autism Tree was built on, is that pay it forward model. And then you look at empowering. And I feel like we could do a documentary on Jeff, how much empowered he's been since we met him in 2019. I can't quantify it, Jeff, how empowered you are now. And you're creating a life that is far beyond Autism Tree. Jeff is on the board of the Unicorn Foundation, and I'm sure he's going to share some of his other things he's involved with. But I just want you to know, Jeff, that you really are a living model of our core pillars, and just so excited to really illuminate your journey and just have a fun interview. Rebecca's, I think, is one of our best interviewers that we've ever had at Autism Tree. So I'm going to pass it back to her, but I know I'm going to have some questions I want to ask too. And I welcome everyone today too to be interactive with Jeff, because I feel like that's a talent that Jeff has, is really getting conversations going. And I want to thank you for that, Jeff, because out of all of our lunch and learns, we haven't always done that, but like today, it's going to be a gift to really have that be the platform. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Rebecca. I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, awesome. So Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. Why don't you first introduce yourself a little bit and say like where you are, how old you are, and when did you decide to become a full-time autism self-advocate?
Thank you, Rebecca. First of all, good afternoon, everyone. Greetings from the East Coast. A little bit about myself. My name is Jeff Snyder. I am an autism neurodiversity advocate and public speaker. I am based in Seekonk, Massachusetts, near Providence, Rhode Island. And I'm 34 years old, and I was first diagnosed with autism at 21 months old, which was in December of 1990. And then I was nonverbal until I was 4 years old. So I couldn't speak until then. And then upon my graduation from Seekonk High School in 2007, I became the first student with autism to complete a pre-K through grade 12 education without coming from other towns or school districts. In addition, I have been living in my own apartment since 2015. And then I also do a yearly scholarship right after I got out of high school called the Jeffrey Snyder Go the Distance Scholarship, which is geared towards helping to pay the first year tuition for graduating seniors who have been on IEP throughout their educational journey. And then also, in addition to that, I'm also on the board of directors for the Unicorn Children's Foundation in Boca Raton, Florida. And then also I am a member of the Doug Flutie Foundation, where I am a Flutie Fellow. And of course I'm also a public speaker. I have profiles on I also have profiles on Facebook. I have profiles on LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and then I'm also on Speaker Hub as well. So if you guys know of anyone who is looking for a dynamic speaker, feel free to reach out to me today, and feel free to have them reach out to me. And also, I am a contributing author to the book This is Autism, which is by Jessica Lightwise and Aidan Allman Cooper. That is currently available on Amazon for $19.97. And if you would like me to sign you a copy at a future in-person event, feel free to purchase your copy, and then I can sign it for you.
I love that. Thank you, Jeff. I think, gosh, you have a long list of accomplishments, and I'm so glad that you have listed them all out, because I was going to ask you about that a little bit later, because you've accomplished so much. So, and that's only been within the past, 4 years, was it? Or what was the year that you started your advocacy business?
It was in May of 2021. And as a matter of fact, the 2-year anniversary is 2 weeks from today, actually.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what were some of the biggest challenges that you had? I mean, I can see that you've worked so hard to get where you are today. That's a lot of work. And all the social media channels and all of that, speaking. What were some of your biggest challenges in launching your self-advocacy business?
Well, I think the big thing was, finding the niche, finding the fit, because one of my big things was speaking. One of my big things was, creating presentations that would gear towards a specific audience. Like, prior to joining forces at Autism Tree, I was in the Brony fandom. And for those of you who don't know, Brony is a fan of My Little Pony. And I would write what was known as fan fictions for the show. And I, whenever I attended these conventions, I would try to, show off my work to people, and they would just they would, be very opinionated. And I said, maybe, and then just recently I said, maybe I would maybe be best if I, go away. Maybe if I move on from the Brony fandom, from doing, fan conventions, and just focus on people that I can really, connect with, gear towards, and all that sort of stuff. And 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 so far, I've created multiple. I've created, a lot of presentations that are geared towards, families, geared towards educators, geared towards employers, and so far, I think in the nearly 2 years since Going the Distance has been in operation, we've been we've been very we've been very blessed, and and with this new hybrid format of doing things in person or virtual, that's just opened a lot of a lot of new doors. So
yeah. How I was going to bring up, you have a lot of presentations that you offer, and I love seeing the ones that you've sent to Dana and I before. Can you tell us a few of your favorite presentations that you give? Like, what are your favorite? What are your top three?
Well, some of the presentations that I have created and presented, I have done a two-part presentation called Autism and Disney Characters, which talks about specific Disney characters that display traits of autism and neurodiversity, and how we could, and the objective of autism and Disney characters is to make the audience believe that there's more to what they're seeing on the screen. Like, for example, if you like, I can, I'll just share my screen here and
sure,
and show you some of my some of the work that I'm doing. So for autism and Disney, so an example for autism and Disney characters is, if we go to volume 1 here, like, for example, for example, like, let's look at Dopey, for example. What does Dopey represent in autism? Dopey represents that some people on the autism spectrum can be nonverbal and only communicate through their emotions, but they still try to keep a positive outlook. And people may think, they look at Dopey and say, oh, he's cute, and he is, he's actually my mom's all-time favorite Disney character. But there's a lot more to Dopey, because we can connect with him, and the fact that, people on the spectrum are going to be nonverbal. I mean, look at me. I was nonverbal until I was 4 years old. So, I mean, I couldn't really, communicate the traditional way until then. So, and then another character that I bring up is like Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh, of course, he has a restricted diet of only honey. He's got a limited awareness. A lot of people who are neurodiverse, they have a restricted diet, they have a limited awareness. And then I also talk about how Pooh uses humming and music as coping techniques. Like, people on the spectrum will use coping techniques like humming and listening to music. And also, there's also the matter of, not understanding social cues. Like, I'm 34 years old and I still struggle with social cues all the time. So that's a key factor. And then of course, people who are on the spectrum believe everything they hear is true. And then also, and then another example is the Beast from Beauty and the Beast, because the Beast represents that people on the spectrum are sometimes very protective of their personal possessions, and they don't like it when their plans or routines are disrupted. So that's one example. I mean, the objective is to get these people to connect with these characters from a neurodiverse perspective. Like you could have a family that is trying to understand their loved one, their child, and they don't know, who to turn to. So they could turn to these characters and talk about, and also talk about, why how can we connect our children with these characters? So
I love your perspective on and how to see those traits in the different characters all around us in the media and I never would have thought made those connections. So I really like your perspective. How many presentations have you, how many companies, how many places have you presented to? Like, I know you speak all over now. Tell us more about where you've presented, where you've spoken, and the companies you've spoken to.
Well, if you look at my curriculum, if you look at my CV, you can see that I've presented to various locations and organizations. I presented to the Autism Society of Northern Virginia, as an example. I also presented to. I've also presented to another organization. I've also presented to organizations. One in the Netherlands called Amnesty International, Student Rotterdam. I presented for 3 branches of the Council for Exceptional Children in Arizona, North Carolina, and Michigan. And then I've also presented for the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecology. And a lot of these were done. Using a presentation called "The Man Behind the Curtain," which talks about, my employment versus working at Borders bookstores and then at Stop and Shop, which is a supermarket chain up here in the Northeast. And so I've done that, and also and then in terms of the companies that I presented for. Let me see. I just gotta look here, but I've also presented for a couple of the APSC, Association for People Supporting Employment. I've presented for. Oh yeah, here it is. Epstein. Epstein is a technological company based in Chicago that I presented for. I mean, but I would like to present to some of the major companies, like any company that hires neurodiverse individuals and they're trying to understand them, like McDonald's or any of the major grocery chains, those kind of companies. And I believe that if there's people like I'm one of many individuals in the community that is not afraid to come up to these companies and say, I gotta you gotta listen to what I have to say, because sometimes if you hear from neurodiverse individuals, you might do better and all that. So
yeah, you got to listen to the community if they're gonna know how to best serve them. So all over the country, basically. And you are based in Massachusetts, and you also, the UCF is in Florida, right?
Yep. Yep, in Boca Raton.
And then you have your West Coast family over here.
Yep.
Would you say those are your 3 main bases?
Yes, yeah. Those are my 3 main bases. I mean, I try, but of course, and of course I try to be flexible with who I go to. I mean, like if I have someone who reaches out to me in Tennessee, I could, do that and stuff. And especially now with because I'm trying to reach out to various schools with my presentation, school safety drills and autism, because there are schools out there that, you know, don't really understand that these drills can be very bothersome to autistic and neurodiverse special education students. And I, you know, and I've actually presented this presentation a couple of times because, you know, I've been in their shoes. I mean, I've had to experience fire drills, lockdown drills, bus evacuation drills, you name it. Because especially now with, you know, all the stuff that's been going on, you know, schools are trying to protect their students, and that includes having these drills. And I think that, you know, if I go, and one of the things I like to go to teachers and say, you know, I'm not trying to, some people may say that, you know, by presenting school safety drills in autism, that I'm trying to get students out of the drill. Hold on a second. I'm not doing that. What I am doing is I'm trying to come up with ways to take the edge off, you know, help them take some of the edge off, but have them go through the drill, but do it in a way that is not very as intrusive to them, not, you know, not going to be, you know, giving them meltdowns. And that includes, you know, meeting with, you know, firefighters, police officers, you know, that sort of thing. And then, of course, and then the other presentation that I like to present is I created towards the school assemblies. School assemblies are probably the most, you know, sensory overloading, meltdown risking things that any special education student can go through, because you know, you're going to be, you know, you're dealing with, you know, loud noises, you're dealing with the speakers trying to get the audience's attention, you're dealing with teachers, some teachers getting angry at students that are being destructive, those kind of things. And what I'm trying to do again is to try to give people, try to teach teachers and administrators that, you know, not everyone can take school assemblies. Like, I took school assemblies and I would have to, you know, put a mask on. I would have to mask my emotions. So that was, and when I got out of the assembly, I would just, you know, have a wicked headache. And then also, so I'm just gonna give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So this is from school assemblies and neurodiversity, and of course, like some of the things I talk about, like what is a school assembly, or what are some types of school assemblies, and if you guys have seen my presentations, you'll know that I add video clips to illustrate my points. And then, of course, why are school assemblies bothersome? Disruption, being huddled, noise levels, and being yelled at the principal, such as this, for example.
Silence!
Stuff like that. And of course, you know, how did I view school assemblies? And then, of course, you know, there are some coping techniques that I put in this presentation, like, you know, headphones or breathing techniques. Like, there are some assemblies that are required, like if you're a graduating senior, you have to attend senior class meetings or all that. But, you know, but it's also a good idea to be by the door of the auditorium or the gymnasium or the cafeteria. And I illustrate that with a clip from the EP. And you'll just
I'm driving. Hey, who are you? I'm driving. Open the door, son. There's a guy out here. What do I do?
Well, what are you waiting for? Let's go! Well, let's get out of here, Michael!
I've never driven forward before!
So little things like that. I mean, there's always going to be an escape route for students who can't handle school assemblies, like Spirit Week is another example. The student can do something else, that's is in a quiet, more controlled environment. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to produce for teachers. And then students, teachers, administrators, because they all can learn something from the educational perspective of what I have to offer.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we hear from a lot of adults, young adults now, that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, doesn't really include autism. So I feel like you're the first one that I've seen or that I've heard of that's kind of on the front lines of that, of saying these are topics that people should think about, that they have. Mm-hmm. So I really applaud you on that. You're kind of a trailblazer.
Thank you.
What are some of the other future goals that you have for yourself and as a self-advocate?
Well, I think for one thing, the main goal that I have in terms of going the distance is to present outside of the country, particularly for organizations that in other countries that might benefit from what I have to offer. Like I've presented virtually as I just mentioned, I presented virtually for an organization in the Netherlands, but I would like to present for organizations in England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, basically the whole UK, Ireland, Canada, and then also maybe Australia, New Zealand, those basically the English speaking countries, because I don't speak very good. I don't speak a good foreign language, but I mean it's and of course I get that from my dad, who for 35 years would go to countries like China for business, and he would always have to have a translator with him. So I typically try to avoid that in a sense, but that's of course my big goal for going the distance. And then of course try to focus on maybe getting more paid opportunities as a public speaker, because this going the distance is a business, and and the business aspect comes in covering flights and hotels and meals and all that. So you want to try to approach the customer in a way that is not too overindulging on their finances. So you really have to be kind of sensitive in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jeff, talk about your the latest endeavor with the classes that you're teaching.
Yes. Yep. As of this past February, I am currently teaching. I'm teaching classes for the Unicorn Children's Foundation. I am a teacher. I teach various. I mean, right now I'm teaching 2 Disney classes. This past semester, I taught a class called the Disney Decades Club, and I'm also created and right now I'm currently teaching the Disney Theme Parks Club, which talks about the history of the Disney theme parks, much like the Disney Decades Club, which covers the 100 years of Disney from 1923 to present day, as this is Disney's 100th anniversary this year. So I just want to share with you also some of my classes that I'm hoping to teach at some point this year. So right now I am at the midway point of the Disney Theme Parks Club. This summer, I'm going to be teaching a class on the Three Stooges. If you guys are familiar with the Three Stooges, and then also this fall, I'm going to be, and then for the fall semester, I'm going to be teaching I'm in the process of working on a class about the Muppets, and here's an example of that. Talks about the history of Jim Henson and the Muppets, and what they had to go through and stuff, and that's, and though these classes are very they're very rewarding, um, they're very um, they're enriching, but the goal is to get the student to understand life lessons through these kinds of subjects, because for because I remember with the Disney theme parks club, when we were discussing the Magic Kingdom, we talked about variety, that the theme parks can go, that if there can be a theme park in if there could be attractions in California, then they could be the same in Florida, given, talks about variance. And then also with and also with the Disney Decades Club, I talk about the importance of being flexible, and how Walt Disney didn't rely on just animation. He wanted to do live action. He wanted to go into the theme parks, those kind of things, because and one thing I always talk about with being flexible is that it's not just a necessity, but a survival skill. And I emphasize that in my signature employment presentation called "The Man Behind the Curtain," and I usually illustrate my point on being flexible through this clip from Remember the Titans. Oh, okay. Well, we'll play the video then. But anyway, that's kind of the point here, because because one thing I mentioned is that being flexible, it's it's not just a necessity, but it's a survival skill. And if it's a survival skill, then you're going to go on. You're going to go. Your dreams and your goals are going to go forward. And if you're going to be rigid, then your dreams are going to die, because you can't, because you're in denial about it, or just because you want to do things your way, and you have to sometimes do things the other way, because that's just how it is. So we'll think.
I had a question. Since we're having so many families both coming to Autism Tree, and then we have a few hundred teens within Autism Tree, I'm wondering if you could share your kind of lessons maybe learned, or anything about what age you were when you started wanting to live on your own, and what were some of the challenges you faced, and how can you share some of the path you took to actually getting your own place?
Well, I first started wanting to move out of my apartment right after I got out of high school, and I had to kind of work towards getting a job that could better financially support myself. And then also we had to also there's the matter of basic life skills, like doing your laundry, or doing cooking your own meals, cleaning up your apartment or house, those little things like that. And one of the things that has really come a long way since I've graduated is that there are now programs that can help teach individuals who are developmentally or physically disabled, how to, live on your own, how to, go to the grocery store, or or to get stuff that you really need for a specific, complete a specific, task. Or there's also the matter of, transportation. I mean, I don't drive a car. I use my folks, and I use a dial a ride service out here in Massachusetts called GATRA. And then, of course, and then there's a matter of, if you're not going to, have a car, how are you going to get around? Talk about, using Lyft, or, Uber, or things of that nature. So you really have to, so and that's how you basically are teaching individuals in that regard. So I mean, that's one of the things that I've noticed a lot, particularly now with especially now that schools like CCONC are creating these transition academies to help better people prepare. I mean, if I had that transitional experience academy experience after I got out of high school, then maybe things would have been a lot more different than where they are now.
We have a question from Christy that said, did you use any type of support / resources to transition into adulthood?
Yes. When it comes to job placement, I was with Massachusetts Rehabilitation, who then transferred me over to Attleboro Enterprises, and Attleboro Enterprises was the organization that helped me get my job at Borders, and then later at Stop and Shop. So usually it was the state's rehabilitation commission that was the main resource. But the problem with that was I didn't get into it until after I got out of high school. And one of the things I'm trying to preach is the importance that we need to start the transition while the child is still in high school. Start off, maybe even start as soon as the child gets into high school, like in terms of getting a paid job, as an example, or get an idea of living on your own. If you're going to be going to college, you're going to be in an environment where you're going to have a roommate, those kind of things. I mean, it's always a good idea to start while the child is still in high school, because that's been a big regret from in my family, at least, was not being able to start the transitioning while still in high school. If I had, then maybe things would have been a little different, and in that sense. I mean, because transitioning, it can be very scary. I mean, it can be scary for anybody, and I think I think I think if you start the transition period, now, if you start in high school, then once the child gets the diploma, when he or she walks across the stage and gets the diploma, then they'll have a much more smoother transition than, say, right after you get out of high school. So
yeah, we have also done a lunch and learn with the Department of Rehab, for the California Department of Rehab, if you want to.
yes, I remember that.
Yeah, our lunch and learn playlist for that. Tamara asked, what is your best advice for a parent of a teen that would help them transition to their first job?
Well, I think the best advice would be to, again, start. Number one, you have to, I know it's hard, but you gotta, prepare to maybe change up your routines, because, you're going to be, when you get a job, you're going to be doing things that you don't want to do. And that includes, changing your schedule, instead of, sleeping in the morning, you got to get up at a certain time. Or if you work on a day where you don't usually work, then you got to, prepare to change that. So, and then the other thing would be, just to maybe go to, think of getting a job as like getting into college. You go to a particular job, you go to a particular company, and you can have the child or teen get a feel for what they're going to experience in that particular environment. And I think that if you do that, then that could, mean that could be a big difference. And then of course, and then also there's the matter of, saying that, not everything's going to be going away. You do have options. If you don't want to be involved in something, then we can always move on to the next best thing. So just remember that the transition is not permanent. It's, transition is just a phase where you go from something else to from old to new, or feast or famine to feast, those kind of things.
It's really good advice.
Thank you.
Christy asked, I always wonder how to prepare for a job interview. On the application, it asks questions regarding disability on the job application. How would you deal with that, Jeff?
This is something that, this is something that has been talked about a lot in the community. There's always, in Shakespeare, there's to be or not to be. That is the question. When it comes to the job application, is to disclose or not to disclose. That's the question. I mean, I understand that some people will not disclose because that could risk their chance of not getting a job. But I think if you work with a job coach, the job coach can help you make the right decision. Do you disclose? Because if you don't disclose and you need specific accommodations, workplace accommodations, then you're going to be, if you get specific accommodations, then you won't get those specific accommodations. And also, but if you do disclose, then you could be at risk of not getting the job that you want. But to me, I would disclose. I would disclose, even if the company will reject your opportunity to work for them, then it's more of a mental health aspect as well to disclose, because if you don't disclose, then you're going to be prone to meltdowns, sensory overloads, those kind of things. So that's something that you really have to take into consideration. And then, as to prepare for the job interview, do a dry run with like the job coach, or the do a dry run with the job coach, or with the parent or guardian. Or it's like studying for a test. You're quizzed on a specific subject that you're studying in school. That's what the job interview is. Pretend like you're being interviewed in like a mock job setting, and they'll tell you like how to present yourself. Like for example, you have to you have to sit up straight, because, and then don't wear too much jewelry if you're a woman, or don't wear too much cologne if you're a man, as an example. So I mean, actually, this is kind of like, being, this whole conversation is like, being in a job interview as well, because, there are some things that, you have to kind of play the game for. And that is especially the case with, job interviews. And, the key factor is first impressions. The more first impressions you get, the better the chances you have of getting that particular job.
Jeff, it's so nice that your dad is on here. Gary, can I say hi to you? Is that okay if we say hi to your dad, Jeff?
You sure can.
Hi, Gary.
Hello, everybody.
Can I see your face
up there?
Are you able to show your face?
I will. I will do that.
Okay. Hi. So happy to
How are
meet
you?
Great. This is Jeff's wingman right here.
Jeff was all excited to have an opportunity to join the Lunch and Learn today. So that's great. And I kind of chimed in on his classes. And these things are really neat, because there's a lot of folks with interest in Disney and the young adults that joined the class, I think he's had 10 or 12 in his first class and maybe 16 the second. They all have a thing for Disney. So the way Jeff goes through each decade, it really gets people excited. This is a fun class, a fun set of learning where something, people are curious about or interested in. It's a shared experience. And Jeff's onto something with it because it's just pure fun. One of the kids in the classes, his mother wrote to the professor who Jeff reports to and said it was the best 10 weeks of his life.
Oh,
being
that's
all
fantastic.
being all pumped up for the Disney class, which I think Jeff's going to start one in about 20 minutes, right, Jeff?
Yep. Yep. At 4:15, I'm going to be starting the class 5 of the Disney Theme Parks Club. So
Jeff, can I ask your dad one question?
yes, of course.
Okay. Gary, you're one of, you and Jeff have such a strong dynamic relationship. And I see, parents all the time wanting to have more of a connection with their neurodiverse child or adult. Can you give any advice on what you think helps a parent to really, what have you learned? Because I see, you and Jeff light each other up. You guys are a dynamic duo. What can you share with other parents on how to build that bond with a neurodiverse child at any age?
Well, I think we try to travel lightly through the desert. Jeff and I try to keep it light. There's a sense of humor, even a kind of a cynical sense of humor that we have amongst us in a good-hearted way that doesn't hurt anybody. So we try to keep things light, and then take one day at a time. And we talk a lot about don't try to boil the ocean, chip away at it, mental health first. Put your line in the water, see what happens. You might catch something, but if you're not fishing, you're not going to catch something. So I think there's a mutual respect there for space and lightheartedness, but also I think Jeff's found his mission. He's very comfortable in his choice to help make the world a better place through his advocacy and work. It took a while for him to find it, but he found it himself. And as a parent, we're just kind of here to help him create an environment where he can give it all his might. And I will say, everything he's done on his own. It's his own, intrinsic motivation. It's his own, I'm going to give this a crack. And the doors he's opened as a result of that, not the least of which is the opportunity you guys gave him 3 years ago to come out and be part of the that. I think that was an explosive area of growth for Jeff, because that was stepping into a lot of unknowns, and he met you great people and had a chance to really become part of something that he knew was bigger than himself. And look where we've come in those 3 years. It's quite incredible.
Yeah, it really is. And I have told Jeff before, as a mom myself, my husband and I always held the bar very, very high for our son. So I just want to say how grateful I am, because Jeff, you came into an arena where, it's world-class neuroscience conference that we've been building for over a decade. And the bar is really high. And I feel like you've really, grown to it. And I think me personally, as a parent, I always wanted my, son and everyone that we're working with to have opportunities that really are a reach, not the other way around. And I found in the early years, that was something that frustrated me as a parent, is I don't want to gum down anyone, not my son or anyone else.
Right.
I want to have them reach up and help them go where they want to go. So I think, it really lights me up hearing that Jeff has done everything on his own. And I think that sometimes that's a hard thing for all parents. You don't want your child to struggle at any age, but sometimes that's how they figure out where they want to be. And I think it was nice hearing you talk about your perspective, because when I see you and Jeff, I see you guys flying together, and I mean that. Like, in the time I've known you, it's incredible the places you guys are going.
Yeah, no, we do fly together, but also can respect our boundaries and do our own thing. And I think we got
Yeah, and I didn't mean it literally. I
Yeah.
want you to know I didn't mean it literally. I meant it like, I know sometimes Jeff's on his own flying, as we see and experience out here meeting him. You're not always with him, but at the same time, you're still connected and knowing he's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think Jeff was talking about what his first job was and living in his own apartment. It involves some risk taking on the part of the parent to when we first set him off on a flight across the country by himself to attend one of his conventions. I mean, that was a big deal, and that letting go. I think some parents, I think they may want to take risks, but they're so afraid of all the potential negative outcomes. I think that's a good area to talk to parents about as their child may want to start to spread their wings in whatever form it takes. It's a big one, and I can say that Jeff may not have felt it was a risk, but we did. But we tried the experiment of the apartment, and that clicked. The travel, that clicked, and even the risk when he first started being interviewed and speaking, that's a tough thing to do, to be articulate, to read your audience, to know when to stop answering the question, and he's had so much practice and growth in that area, and continues to develop. So he's been the risk taker, and I think is it a calculated risk? Yeah, I think it's a calculated risk, but there's risk involved to get this growth, and there's the opportunity that goes along with it. And I just, as a parent, I also sometimes we just like him to be around here all the time, but that ain't going to happen with Jeff, and that's really the way we want it, because he wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jeff. So proud of you. It's nice having your dad here with us too.
Absolutely.
Do you have any closing statements, Jeff?
Well, I'm just gonna actually, if anyone wants to contact me, here's all my contact information. So if you, so feel free to check out my website, Jeff Snyder, Autism Neurodiversity Self-Advocate.wordpress.com. My email is godistance3562@gmail.com. And then again, I'm also on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. I have 2 Instagram accounts, but I usually go by Going the Distance 3562. Twitter, Go Distance 3562. And then again, I'm also on Speaker Hub if anyone is looking for any public speakers, looking for me to speak at any of their upcoming events. So,
Jeff, we don't want anyone to leave. We want everyone to take a photo with you today. Of a nice group of people. We can all say hi to you. And you want to show your face, we'd love for you to. We always take a picture with our speaker. And I think it's almost been 3 years since Jeff's last Lunch and Learn, which is like within a couple days of it, which is, I didn't even realize today until we looked at that back at those photos. Hi, Christy.
We did not plan that.
Yeah.
In the comments. Yeah, I'll take a screenshot as soon as everyone turns.
Hi, Amy. Hi, Joshua. Hi, Sean.
Rima says, thank you so much, Jeff. You're an inspiration. All right. Let's do a picture. Big smiles at the camera. 1, 2, 3. Cheese. Perfect. Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff.
no problem,
Great
guys.
job.
Thank you, Jeff.
You're very
Great
welcome.
seeing everybody.
Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks.